Welcome back. We're still talking software development here, and this time we'll break it down a little bit. Chine, you were talking about going deeper, drawing from the mind of the average young Nigerian in school. You're talking about the nitty-gritty. Just complete your thoughts on that.
Okay, so in the digital, every industrial, let's say economic era or epoch is anchored on certain things that are factors of production. And in ours, the 21st century, the most important is knowledge. So it's no longer land and machinery, and it's no longer even really capital. It's really, first and foremost, around the biggest inputs to production today, and what has created the world's largest and most valuable countries is knowledge. So by extension, your national policy should treat knowledge as critical national infrastructure. And where does that knowledge reside? It resides in the heads of our people. It doesn't require a generator. It requires food. And then it requires fertility in terms of exposure. And the biggest way to expose your people, and probably the fastest way to give them a broad-based knowledge, is by connecting them to technology. So put the two together.
Broadband. Exactly.
So if you say critical national infrastructure includes education and technology, then it means that you start to stream the two together. And you need to create a plan that makes these two work together for the benefit that you're looking for. And so when the government comes up with great policies like the Presidential Executive Orders 3 and 5, which are focused on creating that space for Nigerians to walk into, they've created the space. What next should be done to ensure that you can enter that space? Because there's no point reserving a room for somebody who is not present. Mm-hmm. If the guy is going to be in Florida, but you've kept a room in your house for him, but he wants to go to Florida or he wants to live in London, that room is going to lie fallow. So what next do we need to do? There's a huge mass of unique people called Nigerians, young people, energetic, aspirational, determined and committed, who excel in every other environment outside of this country, that we need to figure out how do you retool. How do you
make sure that they remain here.
They need to build that. That's where they would soak up that demand, because once you give a Nigerian an opportunity and he knows that this is where he can self-actualize, he runs at it with every single thing that he has. And he sacrifices what needs to be sacrificed, which is why when you go anywhere in this country, anywhere in this world, and you see Nigerians working on the good side and on the bad side, they're working energetically. They're working with a lot of intelligence. They're bringing their entire being to focus on achieving this objective. So what we expect to see is a country that has defined where it is going to and creates a picture that is a viable picture for young people to aspire to, mm-hmm. and then creates the demand. So if we say, let's take one simple thing. Large systems. Let's say we take a large system like census, or we take a system like the voter registration, or we take a system like national health insurance. And we take those large systems from governments, because government is the one that has that capacity. We speak to a government a lot because of its size. And you were to say, well, listen, we want to move the national health insurance scheme from 1.2 million enrollees to 100 million, because every single Nigerian needs to be inside it. And we need to do that in the next 10 years. That simple policy statement creates demand. And the system that will make that possible is largely technology. And if you give that technology to somebody outside of Nigeria, you're simply just importing and closing down that opportunity. But if we set a goal and say, in 5 years' time, this is what we want to do, you will see an army of young people turn themselves onto solving that problem, knowing that if they solve the problem, they will earn economic value for it, and they have opportunity to become great. And that's what the EU Executive Orders 3 and 5 is intended to do.
Let me put you on pause here and get back to Mr. Oke to this question of, he's talking about the energetic Nigerians who will take up any opportunities thrown at them. But we have systems, we have companies operating in this country who have issues, challenges here and there are those who wonder, are Nigerians really taking these opportunities? So let me put it in this way. What softwares would you say have been created in this country, and in what industry? Maybe I should be asking.
Well, that should be
There's a long list.
Yeah, so but let me begin with you, Mr. Okay. Did you hear me? Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'll come back to you in Abuja. Let me bring it back to you, Mr. Keremi. What softwares would you say have been created in this country? Viable softwares? And in what industry? You may not name the software for advertising purposes, but what industries would you say softwares have been created and they are working?
I think your question should have been, what industry don't we have software that is working? Created by Nigeria.
Absolutely. In this country.
Absolutely. I think your question should have been that.
Really? Well, it's basically the same thing.
Okay, give us. Okay,
what industry? So what industry doesn't have?
So I'll tell you.
Okay.
What Chidaya said. I'm the president of the City of Software Practitioners of Nigeria. And that virtue, and I was, Chidaya and I incidentally led the initiative of Demo Africa. That exposed us a lot. Every day, yesterday at about 6 o'clock, I was still with young Nigerians. It exposes me. I'm amazed. Let me give you one example. Actually, in the National Executive Council of the Institute of Software Practitioners, where I'm president, is a medical doctor. And I always laugh at him. I say, I don't know the kind of human being you are. Doctor by day, programmer by night. This young gentleman was in my house about 2 weeks ago, and we sat down. Being a doctor, he developed an application that runs in his hospital. And I saw it. Pretty much everything you can do in a hospital is on that software. I have been opportuned to see, Chinaya and I, where we were doing the ESPON competitions, doing conferences, saw young Nigerians. Actually, they were not even graduates at that time. Still in schools. Developing applications at that time that would match Facebook. And I mean it. In fact, this young man came at a point, we doubted, because the software was so developed, that we doubted that they had the time to develop it. So we decided to dive deeper. And we said, show us the code, because we are experienced. And we decided to play a few tricks. We were convinced that they developed the application. There are Nigerians that have developed, I mean, look, so maybe, just tell me, is it in finance, the fintech economy, for example, the fintech ecosystem is so vibrant in Nigeria that everybody in the world actually is coming here to take a look at it. The questions are not whether we have done these things or whether we can do them. The questions are, what stories do we tell? It doesn't matter how well you know. It depends on how well you are told. And the issues about national branding are issues of stories and truths.
The question, the trust value, the trust factor.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going now. So that now talks about trust. You see, the issues of trust and stuff like that are functions of narratives. And as a matter of fact, when people...
Not experience?
They are narratives. So narratives, some of them come from experience, some of them come from pure fiction, some of them come from imagination. As a matter of fact, when you query some of the people that say certain things, when you probe them, you will discover that they really do not have facts. Oh, things you begin to hear is, oh, but I was told. So and so. So, in truth, and like Chinaya had also mentioned, and Mr. Okay in Abuja also mentioned, there are people in Nigeria here who are working for Facebook. They are working for all the major companies in the world. They are Nigerians, and they were trained in Nigeria. And they are doing great stuff. They are acceptable there. But why aren't they accepted and acceptable here? So if I put a label that this is from Microsoft, I get a different reception than when I put a label that it was built by some company in Nigeria. It's because of the narratives. Because I want to say something, that all the stories about hunting expeditions will continue to glorify and gratify the hunters until the lions tell their stories. And that's what we are not doing right. Nigerians all over the world and in Nigeria, I want to say that if the country decides to do what China did, that we want to consume what we produce and produce what we consume, then you would actually see that much more than enough, we will develop solutions to our own challenges and begin to export.
Okay.
But,
Mr. Okay.
Sorry. Yele, the example that you gave of the people who developed that software that reminded you of Facebook,
Yes.
I mean, what use is it if they're not going to make any money out of it?
So that's the issue. So everybody tries or attempts to create something with a hope that I will be able to create value and wealth from it. So sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't. But for you to hit it, the issues are not whether you hit it or not. The issues are whether we are creating an environment to create a higher probability of hitting it or not. So what I'm saying is that people are putting a lot of things into it, but have we created sufficient environment to increase the probability of hitting it? And unless and until we create those environments and put all those dots together to ensure that we increase the probabilities of hitting it, people are going to get tired of attempting. So you get to hear people. I mean, when I first, 30 years ago, and this is true, in 1989, that's about 30 years ago, I asked a group of young men in Surulere, what would you want to become? And two of them, they were young, they were at about age 5 at that time, 5, 6, 7. They said they wanted to become managing directors. They didn't know what it meant actually, but they had seen somebody that lived in the neighborhood who was a managing director that had a nice car and always looked good in his suit, and they aspired to be like that. In 2008 or so, I asked the same questions. They wanted to become militants. Why do you blame them? Follow the money. So the same thing we are talking about. If you want to create successful IT entrepreneurs, you have to create an environment that allows them. Zuckerberg came to Nigeria, and it was a whole fanfare. The president wanted the picture with him, and that's not a bad thing. But I posit that there are so many people roaming the streets of Lagos, Kano, and Port Harcourt that are in the class of Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg is Zuckerberg because his environment allowed him. He didn't finish Harvard, you know that. He didn't finish school. But the environment allowed him.
Same for Steve Jobs.
So many people.
Okay, Mr. Okay, yeah, you were the one I asked a question about the industries where the software developed in Nigeria are operating and are working effectively. So now Yele has weighed in on that, but you are a practitioner as well. So tell us a bit of what's happening in that field. How is it that the Nigerians who are building some of these things are not seen, not to talk of being recognized, and what can be done in the public space by leadership to see Nigerians arise to take their pride of place in software development?
Yeah, thank you very much. The truth is that there's a leadership challenge when it comes to technology and software development in Nigeria. And it's, whether we like it or not, government cannot shy away from this responsibility, because nobody else makes policy or makes the rules or makes the laws for the country except the government. So government needs to bring about a massive and major intervention as far as the industry is concerned. If you look at the our health industry, for instance, now, it just painted a picture of someone that is the doctor in daytime and it's actually a software programmer in the nighttime. Now, what can we learn from this? What he has done basically is that he's actually followed the customer's journey. Now, we need to do that in so many areas and in so many industries. Government needs to actually see how they can intervene and make life more bearable for a lot of developers. A lot of developers are becoming more frustrated because what they are doing is not being appreciated. I know of a developer, sincerely speaking, who has been doing so well for the past 10 to 15 years. But just recently, I asked him that, okay, how is it doing and how is the business going? And he just told me that, no, right now, he's no longer a developer. He doesn't do anything software again. What he does right now is photography. because that is what pays the bill. So now there is a whole lot of yearning. No matter how much software you want the young people to develop, they have a life to live. They need to have a good quality of life, and they need to actually, have the dignity of labor as well. So they cannot go back and make excuses because of the fact that there are gaps in the industry. Someone develops a software, pushes out into the market there. The software is actually functional. This software is actually functioning, but in terms of acceptability and usage, it is not actually driving the right traction. So some level of frustration sets in. And one way or the other, this individual or this young person needs to carry on with his life. So now,
I'll just put you on pause for a second. We'll take a moment. I'll come back to continue from that point where the young people need to survive before they can express their inner talents. We'll be back in a moment. Please don't go away.